More than 22 people in the room burst out laughing, everyone except me. I just gave a little nod, pulled out my phone, and with 2 taps, I shut down every payment, card, utility, and subscription I'd been covering. Just like that, everything was gone. That night, I packed a bag, walked out the door, and severed every connection. No goodbyes. I disappeared, leaving only a plain black backpack behind. What they found inside, well, that was something else. Her voice still echoes, "If you disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice." And she giggled like it was the funniest thing she'd ever said. Meanwhile, her fingers peeled off the plastic film from that brand new phone I paid for. She looked sweet, but her words, razor sharp. The living room was buzzing with noise, over 22 family members chatting, laughing, like we were in a sitcom with the volume turned up too high. There was a birthday cake waiting in the kitchen, candles untouched. But the fire had already started inside my chest. My sister, Rachel, didn't even bother to glance up. She just sat there on the couch, scrolling her phone with that smug little grin, the kind someone wears when they've won, and they know it. Mom was cooking, stirring a pot like nothing had happened, but I saw that slight shift in her shoulders. She heard it, and I swear, she agreed. "Dad?" Oh, he didn't even try to pretend. He chuckled, lifted his beer like a toast, and said under his breath, "Well, she's not wrong." That was it. The room erupted with more laughter. My cousins looked amused. Even Uncle Ron, who barely remembers my name outside of Thanksgiving, snorted into his drink. I just stood there, frozen, like the idiot I always was. The one who handled everything. The one who cleaned up the mess. The guy who was never quite good enough. "Thanks for the phone, Uncle," Emma chimed, already leaning against her mom, eyes locked on the glowing screen. I watched her. Heat rose in my cheeks. My chest pounded. And suddenly, the walls seemed too tight, like the whole house was closing in. Still, I said nothing. I nodded. I smiled. Pretended. That was my role, keeping it all together. Rachel finally looked up and locked eyes with me. And right then, I saw it, just a flash of something. Amusement. Satisfaction. Like she'd been hoping for this moment where I'd stand there, stunned and small. "All right, everyone, let's cut the cake." Mom's cheerful voice cut through the air like a bell, pushing aside the tension like it never existed. But the bitterness still clung to my mouth. I wandered into the kitchen, leaned on the counter, and watched them gather around. The candles flickered. People made wishes. I made fists. My jaw tightened. And under all that hurt, something colder took root. I could feel my phone in my pocket. 2 quick taps. And in an instant, everything I'd set up, credit cards, bills, auto pays for Rachel, for Mom, for Dad, it all shut down. My hands didn't even hesitate. It was like my body already knew what to do, even before my brain caught up. Gone. Every single thing I gave them. Vanished. The noise around me faded. Faces blurred. Laughter felt distant, like it belonged to someone else's life. I wasn't really there anymore. I had become a walking wallet. But that ended right then. I walked out without a word. No one noticed. And honestly, Emma was right about that part. I didn't head home. I went straight to my apartment, grabbed the basics, just enough to move light, and then paused. That old black backpack in the closet? The one I hadn't touched in years? Tonight, it had a purpose. I didn't fill it with clothes or keepsakes. No, I packed it with something they wouldn't see coming. I went back. The house was still loud and careless, same as always. I slipped in quietly, crept down the hall, and left the bag right by the stairs. And then I was gone. Really gone. By the time they noticed anything, I'd already be just a memory. And that backpack? I left it there on purpose. Let them find it. Let them try to make sense of it. Silence didn't last long. I thought maybe they'd react with confusion. Maybe a little anger. What I got instead? An explosion. It hit the very next morning. I woke up to fists pounding on my apartment door. No calls, no gentle knocking. Just pure fury. Open this damn door. You think you can just walk away? That was Dad. His voice thundered through the walls. I sat still, didn't say a thing, just stared at the door rattling like it might fall off the hinges. "I know you're in there," he shouted. "You think you're better than us? You think you're clever?" His voice cracked, and underneath the anger, I could hear it, fear. I didn't make a sound. I wasn't playing their game anymore. After a few more minutes, the pounding stopped. I heard his boots on the stairs, a muffled curse, and then the slam of a car door. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. About 20 minutes later, my phone lit up. A single message from Mom. Just one line. How could you do this to your own family? I didn't answer. About an hour later, Rachel gave it a shot. This time, it was a phone call. I watched her name pop up on the screen, let it ring out without touching it. Then it came again. And again. 6 times in a row. Eventually, a text showed up. You think you're clever? Think we need you around? Fine. Let's see how long you last without a family. I read it and actually smiled. Was that supposed to scare me? Sounded more like freedom than a threat. But the real mess? That came later that night. I had just stepped out of the shower when I heard something that stopped me cold, a key turning in the lock. I froze mid-step. Nobody should have a key to my place. Nobody except. The door flew open. Dad barged in, red as a beet, sweat trickling down his face. Mom followed close behind, eyes wide, panicked. You think you can lock me out? Dad roared. Get out, I said, steady, voice like ice. Get out, he spat back. This is who you are now? Mom's voice cracked, not quite a scream, but almost there. Turning your back on your family? You didn't raise me. You used me, I said, towel over my shoulder, leaning on the counter, half drying my hair. Big difference. Dad took a step toward me, knuckles clenched, shaking. Ungrateful little pain in the ass. Try it, I said, cool and unshaken. The words just came out calm, direct, unafraid. His hand trembled but didn't move. We both knew what was real. He wasn't the fight you type. He barked a lot to hide the fact he'd never bite. Just noise to cover his fear. What did you do? Mom gasped. Her voice cracked this time. None of our cards work. Rachel can't pay for anything. The mortgage, it's all shut off. That's right, I nodded. Everything I handled. Everything I paid for. It's done now. Dad let out a dry, bitter laugh, like it was supposed to cut me. Oh, look at you. Acting like some big man. Think we need you. Seems like you do, I said with a shrug. Considering you broke into my place just to beg. Beg, he snapped, spitting the word like poison. You think this is begging? You think. Enough, I said. Loud. Sharp. Cut him off mid-rant. I'm done. Mom stepped toward me, hands reaching out. Please, we're your family. You mean, you're all you've got left, I said. I'm through being your safety net. Your free ride. Your damn doormat. Dad's face twisted in disgust. You little parasite, error. I held up a single finger. Out. Now. You can't do this to us, Mom whispered, tears welling up. It's cruel. Cruel. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Cruel is calling your own kid worthless while living off his money. Cruel is pretending I matter just enough to squeeze me dry. Dad made another move forward, but this time I didn't back off. And for the first time, he hesitated. Shoulders dropped. You'll regret this, he muttered. You'll come crawling back. I won't, I said, voice like steel bars closing. They slammed the door behind them when they left. But I didn't relax. Not yet. I knew my family too well. They weren't done. Not even close. The next day, they switched gears. Rachel showed up at my job. I spotted her through the glass wall of the office, pale, puffy-eyed, face streaked with tears. My boss looked baffled, then increasingly uncomfortable as she started waving, trying to get my attention. I didn't budge. Stayed right at my desk. Sir, there's a woman here for you, someone said. She's nobody, I muttered without even glancing up. But she didn't walk away. I watched from the corner of my eye as she talked to the receptionist. Her voice was rising, hands shaking. It wasn't long before security got involved, gently steering her out the door. I knew she'd be back. Later that evening, there was another knock. This time it was my landlord. Hey, there's a bit of a problem, he said, looking uncomfortable. He rubbed the back of his neck. Your family's downstairs, yelling, making a bit of a scene. Either you ask them to go, or I'll have to get the cops involved. They're not my family, I said flatly. Not anymore. I pulled the curtain back just enough to peek through the window. There they were shouting, gesturing wildly. Security eventually showed up and cleared them out. But I knew better than to think they were finished. They were relentless. Always had been. And I knew, deep down in the mess of that house I left behind, that the old black backpack I dropped off was still sitting there. Still waiting. Waiting to be unzipped. Opened. Understood. Waiting to show them just how far I was willing to go to walk away. The silence that followed didn't fool me. With my family, silence was never peace. It was just the warning shot. For the next few days, I let their calls go unanswered. Ignored the messages, the voicemails, the fake apologies buried under guilt trips. I didn't show up to work. Let the world outside fall quiet while I breathed in the peace I'd never had. I wasn't stupid. I knew they wouldn't just walk away and let me be. That's not how my family operates. It started with Rachel throwing digital tantrums like a teenager. Message after message, dripping with spite, blaming me for everything going wrong in their lives. Then came Mom, leaving voicemails full of sobs, her voice cracking as she begged me to be the bigger person, to come fix what they broke. And of course, Dad followed. At first, it was the usual, yelling, swearing, blaming, his greatest hits. But then, something shifted. His tone went quiet, controlled, calculated, like he'd switched tactics. Son, let's settle this like men, he said. No drama, just you and me. There's a game this weekend, our team's playing. Come down, let's talk things through. It reeked of a setup. I felt it in my gut. But still I said yes. Because deep down I wanted this. So I showed up. And the moment I spotted the empty seats surrounding him, and that familiar black backpack gripped in his hand, I knew exactly what I'd walked into. They didn't want peace. They wanted the upper hand. But I wasn't the guy who used to stand there nodding and faking smiles. That version of me didn't exist anymore. The stadium throbbed with life. Fans yelling, stomping on metal bleachers, the kind of chaos that could bury any private moment. Dad was already seated in Section 9, Row C. Somehow, the seats around him were all empty, even though the game was sold out. He spotted me right away, waving me over with one hand while the other clutched the backpack like it held the damn truth. My truth. I walked down the steps, steady, locking eyes with him as I closed the distance. He grinned. Not happy, triumphant. That smug, twisted grin of someone who thinks they've already won. Didn't think you'd show, he yelled over the noise, slapping the seat beside him. Finally ready to talk like men? Talk. I sat down, never taking my eyes off the bag. Is that what this is? Oh, it's more than that. He leaned in, dropping his voice so only I could hear. You thought you were real clever, didn't you? Cutting us off, disappearing. But you forgot something. His fingers tapped the top of the backpack. We found your little gift. And guess what, genius? We know. Know what? I asked, my voice like the breeze cutting through the open stadium. Calm. Cold. The truth. The lies. You think you're so damn righteous? Like you're better than us. His voice grew harder. All those times acting like you were saving us. You were hiding things. I should have seen it. I almost laughed. Go ahead. Open it, then. Show me what you think you've discovered. His eyes flickered, fear mixed with fury. Don't play games with me. I don't need to open it. I already know you've been lying. Stealing. Pretending to be the good guy while hoarding your secrets. I leaned back, letting the cold stadium seat press against my shoulders. That bag doesn't hold secrets. It holds the truth. A cheer erupted around us as the home team scored, but in our little bubble, everything went still. Just tension, silence, and Dad's trembling fingers resting on the bag like it might explode. You're bluffing, he muttered. You're just trying to rattle me. But we're done hiding this. We're telling everyone what kind of person you really are. How you abandoned your family. Go ahead. I motioned toward the sea of fans. Tell them. Tell them how I covered Rachel's rent for 18 months. How I paid off your gambling debts when you flushed your pension. Tell them about that fancy phone I gave your granddaughter. Right before she told me I didn't matter. His face went dark, lips curling like he'd swallowed poison. Shut your mouth. No, I said, locking eyes. Let's be real. You're sitting there with a backpack full of receipts, proof of everything I did. And you still think you can use it against me? His grip tightened, knuckles whitening. You don't talk to me like that. Like what? I leaned forward, voice still low but burning. Like the nobody you always treated me as? Like the cash machine? The errand boy? Shut up, he barked, standing up, drawing attention from a few rows nearby. Sit. Down, I said, calm but sharp. And for a second, just a flicker, I saw it. Fear. Not anger. Not power. Fear. He hated losing control more than he hated me. What? You gonna hit me? He snapped, trying to laugh it off, but his voice was thin, shaky. You think anyone here's on your side? You really think they're on yours? I said, nodding to the crowd. Just a sea of strangers who didn't give a damn about his shouting. Not anymore. You're just a bitter old man clinging to a backpack full of IOUs. And no, the crowd didn't know who I was, but they didn't need to. His face twisted like he'd swallowed something sour. Then his voice dropped low, full of venom. You selfish bastard. Everything's always been about you. I gave him a quiet smile. Funny. I was your lifeline. Now you're drowning without me. That's when he snapped. I saw it coming, his hand, heavy and shaking, flying toward my face. But I didn't budge. Not even a blink. He wanted me to react. He wanted a scene. Something he could use to spin me into the villain. But I just stared him down, calm and still. And his fist? It stopped short, hovering, trembling just inches from my face. I should have left you out in the street when I had the chance, he muttered, voice cracking. You've always been a leech. I leaned in, just enough to smell the beer on his breath. That's rich, I whispered. Because that's exactly how I've always seen you. Something inside him buckled. His arm dropped. His shoulders sagged. And just like that, whatever pride he had left seemed to drain out of him. Around us, the stadium erupted in cheers, a goal, maybe. But in our little corner, it felt like the world was folding in. I reached over and grabbed the backpack. He didn't fight me. Not even a twitch. Want to know what's inside this bag? I said, loud enough that a few heads turned. Everything I ever did for you. Every dollar. Every damn sacrifice. Now people were watching, glancing over, murmuring. A few had their phones out, cameras rolling. You want the truth? I unzipped the bag and pulled out a thick pile of paperwork. There. That's how I covered your mess. That's how I paid your bills. That's how I kept your house from being repossessed. 3 times. His skin went pale, like all the blood had just vanished. And you want to talk betrayal? I stood, holding up the papers like a flag. You betrayed me the second you made me your personal ATM. The second you laughed along while they told me I didn't matter. Stop, he whispered, shrinking back into the seat, his voice small. No, I said. This is the scene you wanted. Well, here it is. I threw the papers at his feet. They scattered everywhere, floating down the steps like autumn leaves. And I turned, walked up the steps, past the eyes, past the whispers. You can't just walk away, he called out behind me, voice cracking. But I didn't turn back. For the first time in my life, his words had no weight. They didn't stop reaching out. Not right away. The day after the stadium, the day Dad's pride got stomped into cold metal bleachers, my phone blew up. Call after call. Message after message. Anger. Begging. Guilt. Threats. Like a carousel of desperation spinning with familiar voices. I ignored every bit of it. Dad was the first to crumble. His tone flipped from furious to pleading before noon. We can fix this, he said. Let's just move on, pretend none of this happened. Lies coated in sugar. I didn't respond. Then Mom started in, texting guilt like it was her native language. You're tearing us apart. We didn't mean those things. We're still a family. I stopped reading them halfway through. Rachel tried last. She started with poison. You're a coward. A selfish coward. You ruined everything. And then, just as suddenly, she changed gears. Please talk to me. I was scared. I didn't mean it. Just, don't do this. But I did. I answered with silence. That was my reply. That was my justice. At first, they didn't believe it. They thought I was bluffing, just pulling some dramatic stunt. But days turned into weeks. Bills stacked up. Friends stopped returning their calls. And reality started sinking in. They couldn't touch me anymore. Even the landlord at their house rang me up, nervous, stuttering. I just wanted to let you know they haven't paid rent in a while. Not my issue, I said, and hung up. Mom sent me a photo once, the whole family sitting in a dark room, one tiny candle lighting the table. We've got nothing left. I deleted it without hesitation. Then one night, walking home from the grocery store, I spotted someone pacing outside my building. It was Dad. He looked thin, exhausted. That fiery look he always carried was gone, replaced by something I'd never seen before, fear. The second he saw me, his face lit up, but not with joy. It was hope, warped and desperate. He rushed toward me. Listen, you can't keep doing this. You're my son. I didn't even slow down. No, I said. I was your wallet. He stepped in front of me, trying to block my path. We raised you. We gave you everything. I stopped, looked him straight in the eyes. No, I said. You used me. And now, you've got nothing left. I tried to step past him, but he grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in. You don't get to do this, he growled, his voice ragged with fury. The anger I knew too well came bubbling back to the surface. You think you're better than us? That you can just walk away like we don't matter? No, I said, yanking my arm out of his grip. I don't think I can. I know I can. And I did. He took a swing at me, slow, unsteady, like his body had already given up. His fist grazed my shoulder. More of a clumsy push than a punch. He staggered, catching himself against the side of the building, panting like he'd just run a mile. Pathetic. I didn't mean to say it out loud. It just slipped out, like an exhale. His face contorted with rage, eyes burning. You'll come crawling back. You always do. You're nothing without us. I laughed, loud and sharp. The sound echoed down the empty street. No, I said, turning my back to him. I was nothing with you. And I walked away. Never looked over my shoulder. That night, I dropped my phone in the bottom drawer of my desk and left it there. Let the calls pile up. Let the messages rot. None of it could touch me anymore. A week later, an envelope showed up in my mailbox. The handwriting on the front was shaky. Mom's. Please, she wrote. Your father's health is failing. Rachel's not coping. We're falling apart. You're the only one who can fix this. Please come home. I didn't read the rest. I crushed the letter in my hand and tossed it straight in the trash. They were falling apart? Good. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't. I didn't run. I didn't change my number. I didn't hide. I just stayed exactly where I was. I just stopped being theirs. And once I pulled away, their little world started caving in. Rachel's friends stopped answering her. No more sympathy for the drama. Mom's distant relatives, the ones who used to send polite cards in December, went silent. And Dad? He lost it at work one too many times, blew up at the wrong person, and got canned. But I didn't watch any of it unfold. I was living, cooking my own meals, sleeping without dread, walking wherever I wanted, without that constant buzz of need from people who only called when they wanted something. They weren't family anymore. Just echoes. Shadows. Like smoke from a house fire I left behind. And I was finally free. Months passed. And silence, once terrifying, became a comfort. I woke up when I wanted. Ate whatever I craved. Spent weekends wandering parts of the city I'd always ignored, breathing in the air like it had been waiting for me. Sometimes I'd catch myself anticipating the familiar jolt of a guilt-tripped text, or a call demanding I clean up someone else's mess. But it never came. I'd done the unthinkable. I'd erased them. Not from the world, but from mine. One crisp autumn morning, I walked down Main Street. The air had that cool bite to it, and leaves scattered in slow spirals on the sidewalk. I passed the cafe where I used to buy overpriced cakes for Rachel's birthdays. The boutique where I dropped hundreds on gifts. The restaurant where I paid for every family dinner, smiling while they let me. Ghosts. Just ghosts now. At the corner, a street musician sat playing a slow, aching tune. His fingers moved gently across the strings, his voice low and rough, not polished, just honest. I stopped. Let the music wrap around me. It wasn't about love. It wasn't about grief. It was about letting go. The world flowed past me, busy and full of life. And I stood there, unmoving, breathing deep. When the last note faded, I dropped $10 in his open case. He gave me a nod. I smiled back. Not because I owed it to anyone. Not because it was expected. But because I wanted to. And that was everything. I didn't need them. Never did. I kept walking. Each step felt lighter. Each breath easier. As the sun slipped beneath the rooftops, bleeding gold and crimson across the sky, I felt it deep in my chest. That quiet certainty. I was free.